Good morning, scholars. Today we are going to be learning about a botanist and suffragist. A suffragist is a person who fought for women's rights. Her name is Mary Agnes Chase. This reading comes out of the book called Women in Science, 50 Fearless Pioneers Who Changed the World. This book was written and illustrated by Rachel Ignatowski. I included a link to her website underneath this video. Please go to it. She has a lot of really cool things on her website. There's a ton of links to videos and other articles about all the women that are listed in this book. And she also has coloring pages that you can download right from her website. I highly suggest you guys go to it. Her website is really cool. Her artwork is awesome, and you can look at all the other books that she has written and illustrated. Let's get started. I'm going to read the page aloud to you. Your job is to follow along as I read. Mary Agnes Chase, botanist and suffragist. Mary Agnes Chase was a tiny woman with a fighting spirit. She was born in 1869 and grew up in Chicago. She started working after finishing grammar school in order to help her family, but in her spare time, she enjoyed learning about botany. She would go on trips to sketch plants and use her small savings to take a few botany classes at the University of Chicago and the Lewis Institute. Her informal education also included working with botanist Reverend Ellsworth Jerome Hill. He mentored Mary, and in exchange, she illustrated plants for his papers. Her impressive sketchbooks got her a tiny part-time job at the Chicago Field Museum of Natural History, where she was a scientific illustrator for a few of the museum's publications. Mary figured out how to use a microscope and do technical drawings on the job. With her new skills, Mary became a full-time illustrator for the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, in 1903. At the USDA, Mary worked as assistant to the botanist Albert Hitchcock. Together, they took on the task of collecting and classifying grasses in North and South America until his death in 1935, when she became the senior botanist in charge of systematic agrostology. Unlike her male colleagues, Mary was often denied funding to travel, but not content to just stay in the lab, she traveled all over the United States and South America, even if it meant paying her own way. Mary discovered thousands of new species of grasses from around the world and authored and co-authored many books on those plants. Mary called grass the plant that holds the soil, and she was able to figure out which grasses were the best to feed livestock. With Albert Hitchcock, she studied commercially developed grass strains to make sure that they were as advertised. A lot of today's food has been informed by Mary's important research. Mary was also a suffragist. She protested for women's right to vote in the United States, even when the USDA threatened to fire her. She bravely participated in the 1918 hunger strike, in which she was jailed and force-fed. Her sacrifices helped gain women the right to vote in 1920. Mary continued to work for the USDA until she retired in 1939. She was an honorary curator for the Smithsonian up until her death in 1963. Her research was left to the Smithsonian, where it continues to be used. Now, if we just look at the pictures off to the side, I'm just going to read aloud what those pictures say. They are her achievements and accomplishments and things that Mary has done in her life. So follow along as I read this one. Worked odd jobs in stockyards, a grocery store, and a magazine. Right here. Solo wrote and illustrated a first book of grasses, The Structure of Grasses Explained for Beginners. Given an honorary degree from the University of Illinois. Was an active member in the NAACP, right here. Was an honorary fellow at the Smithsonian Institution and fellow at the Linnean Society of London, right here. Her home in Washington, D.C., called Casa Contenta, became a place for Latin American women botanists to stay while learning in the U.S. And the last one right here, collected over 70,000 different types of grass specimen from around the world. Now, if you look over to the page to the left, these are just some more facts about Mary. Right here, suffragist who fought for women's right to vote. This one right here, world's greatest agrostotologist, which is an expert in grass. And then the last one right here, identified thousands of types of grass all over the world. And here is a quote from Mary Agnes Chase. It says, "Grass made it possible for the human race to abandon cave life and follow herds." Okay, scholars, you have a couple jobs right now. Underneath this video are a few links for you to go read articles about Mary Agnes Chase. You need to read those 2 articles that I posted, because the third link that I have is a link to Padlet, and you need to create a timeline with Mary Agnes Chase. The directions are in Padlet, and there is also a link underneath that with a video of how to exactly use this Padlet today. If you have any questions, as always, please text me or send me an email. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.